Welcome to the fifth and final DVD in this series. In this DVD, we will visit Foundation Phase Mathematics classrooms where you will meet 5 teachers, teaching in diverse communities, from squatter camps to suburbia, facing different challenges in their personal lives and in the lives of their learners, and educating to the highest standards whether they teach in minimally resourced classrooms or resource-rich environments. Although each one's teaching contexts are unique, they all share a common passion and a common mission, which is to educate. They are all hardworking and dedicated and have a clear idea of the world demands and the challenges that their learners will one day experience. In each section, we will watch a complete lesson. This will help demonstrate how a whole class activity is structured and how the small group focus time works. We know that many teachers are unsure about how to do small group focused teaching, but you will see how easily it can be done and how it will free you up so you can do differentiated teaching in multi-level and multi-grade classrooms. You will also see that one well-planned lesson can integrate more than one content area. A lesson is not limited to one topic only. In the same lesson, a variety of manipulatives can be used. Learners can be given a range of independent activities to work on while the teacher focuses on the small group. These lessons will illustrate that the mathematics lesson needn't be linear. That is, the focus is not on a single topic with all the learners completing the same written activity. It's not a one-size-fits-all, but activities are differentiated to suit different ability levels. These teachers will show us how easy it is to develop multi-level mathematics lessons and how effective they are for teaching and for learning. This approach is very effective too in multi-grade classrooms. Join me in the next session as we visit our first school. Let's catch up with Cindy and her grade 2 girls.
Hi, my name is Cindy Stretch. I teach at St. John's DSG in Pietermaritzburg, which is a small private school for girls.
The content areas that Cindy is focusing on are numbers, operations and relationships, as well as shape and space, and finally, measurement. She starts off with a whole class activity with the learners sitting in a circle on the floor. Cindy begins with a clever counting activity using a clock. They begin by counting forwards and backwards in 5s from different times that the learners identify on the clock.
5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45.
Counting in 5s is obviously suited to the clock. She has previously introduced the clock and she uses the opportunity to revise the minute and hour hand. She revises the concept of quarter to and quarter past on the clock, and there's incidental learning around the concept of fractions. She then asks the learners what they can count on their own bodies in 5s.
What are we counting at? What else can we count with in 5s that we've got in our body? Let's see, let's ask someone who hasn't had a turn. Our fingers!
Learners say their hands and takes the counting in 5s activity further. Also note how she allows the learners to self-correct their mistakes.
Oh, we're going to have to see a little bit of a problem here. Where is the problem? Who can help me find the problem?
It's all squashed up. You don't know what number it's supposed to be.
So where did it go wrong?
This is something we should all do. It teaches learners that it's okay to make mistakes because we can fix them. Learners then also break numbers into multiples of 5. They use symbols, repeated addition, and multiplication to show this.
Who can tell me how we can draw that picture? All in yellow. Why did we choose yellow?
It's bright.
It's a bright color.
Cindy uses the second half of the whole class activity for mental maths. Learners take out their secret number that Cindy put into their maths bag the day before. Each learner has a chance to count on in 1s from their secret number.
24, 25, 26, 27, 28.
Notice how she uses a clapper to keep the learners focused. She then gives each child a matchbox and they count out their secret number with the matches. She asks questions like who has the most and who has the least.
Who had the most matches to count out? 39. Anybody had to count out more than 39? No. So who has, what have you got?
3.
She also uses this opportunity to revise odd and even numbers, asking learners whether their secret number is odd or even. They also arrange themselves in order. Cindy now gets the learners to explore the value of their secret number. This is known as the numerosity of number. The learners break their numbers into tens and units using flashcards. Cindy also makes sure that the learners discuss or verbalize how they have broken their numbers into tens and units.
Tell me, did you have too much? Too little? How much more?
She asks questions like what and how. Verbalization between teachers and peers develops social knowledge. Next, learners have to tell Cindy an interesting fact about their secret numbers.
Nadia?
26 is between 25 and 27 and it's an even number and you can count to 20.
Learners draw on their conceptual knowledge and offer number facts about their secret number. These include the number's position, a bond, its multiples, and so on. She ends the whole class activity with mental maths activities. Learners find their secret number on their 100 charts and then calculate according to Cindy's instructions. For instance, she'll say, add 20, what is 20 less, and so on.
Let's all put our fingers on 29. Let's find 29. Let's go right up to number 9. Right, let's count in tens all the way down our chart. 9.
This whole class lesson is a wonderful example of getting learners to do the same kinds of activities, but to work within number ranges that they are comfortable with. Cindy carefully selected the secret numbers which she put into the girls' bags the day before. This allowed her to extend her top learners, challenge her middle learners, and make sure that the weaker learners didn't feel frustrated by working out of a manageable number range. Now let's see how she manages the small group focus. Cindy gets her learners to work in groups. She works with one group on the floor while another works at their desks completing place value worksheets, which Cindy explained on a previous day. Another group is working at the back of the classroom using manipulatives, in this case, minis and dice, to explore place value. Let's join Cindy and the girls on the floor to see what they are doing. The girls are each given a set of flashcards and begin by arranging them in order on the floor. Before she continues with the flashcards, Cindy passes a box of matches around the circle. Each girl looks at the matches and estimates how many there are in the box. The learners write down their estimations on their whiteboards.
I want you to pass it along and just estimate how many matches are in this box. What? Write your answer, don't tell me. Hannah, what did you estimate?
39, 42, 32, 38.
Once they have done this, they count how many matches there actually are in the box, and they compare this to the number that they estimated. Notice that while Cindy works with the group on the floor, the other learners are working quietly on the independent tasks set for them. Cindy and the learners now begin to work with the flashcards. In this activity, Cindy combines place value and mental maths. She asks them to build a number with the cards. She then asks them to show her 2 more or 10 more than that particular number. Once the learners have built the number, she asks whether they change the 1s or the 10s.
What did you change, the ones or the tens?
The one.
The ones. Okay, show me 3 less than 36. 3 less than 36. Good girl. What's your answer?
33.
What did you change, the ones or the tens?
1.
Okay, show me 10 more than 36.
Did you notice how Cindy kept asking the girls to tell her what they had done to arrive at their answer? Doing this makes the learners think about the methods that they are using, and it also helps them to self-correct if they make a mistake. All small focus time must include problem-solving activities. Cindy prepares the story sums before the lesson. For this lesson, she has prepared 3 problems each for the group she is working with today. The story sums are identical, but the number ranges are different.
I'm going to tell you that Jess has been very thirsty. Right? It's been hot weather. And she drinks 10 glasses of water a day. How many water will she have in a week? 10 glasses of water. How many days there are in the week? And work it out. Have you all got your answer?
Yes.
Open up.
70.
Bella, how did you get to?
The learners draw their solutions on their whiteboards, and Cindy helps learners who are struggling. When everyone is done, the girls explain their solution, and Cindy makes sure that everyone has a chance to explain.
What did you do?
I knew that there's 7 days in a week, and then you tens and tens, so it could be 70, so this one's 70.
Now, this is a classical group focus lesson. It consists of estimation, concept development, and problem solving. Cindy always works with 2 groups. Having seen one group, she now calls the next group to the floor. She is going to do something completely different with this group. She introduces a new focus, 3-dimensional shapes. She starts off revising 2-dimensional shapes and introduces a 3-dimensional shape at a time. They discuss the properties of each shape, the number of sides, faces, and whether it rolls or slides. She even manages to incorporate and revise some phonics.
Right, girls, so now here I've got one, a ball. Do you know what the name is for this? What do we call this? Do we call this a circle?
A 3D ball.
I like what you call it, a 3D ball. Yes, you are right. But girls, the real word for this, and this is now so soft because Mrs. Stretch has been kneading it in her fingers all morning. The real word for this is called a sphere. Sphere.
Oh, remember.
Tell me about this sound here. Just make a, do you say sphere, girls? What else makes a f? An F or a?
Double F.
Double F, as in Mrs. Stretch's favorite drink, which is?
Coffee.
Coffee. Coffee's got a double F.
The girls also find examples of these shapes in the classroom and bring them back to the carpet. The learners then go to their desks to complete pages 32 and 33 of the Rainbow Workbooks. Cindy works through the page with them, and they return to their desks to complete the exercise. I'm sure you'll agree that Cindy's lesson demonstrates her good planning, patience, and enjoyment for teaching. Let's see what Cindy has to say about planning.
Planning is very important. I spend a long time doing my planning on the weekends. I don't believe that you can actually go and teach a lesson unless you know what you're doing and unless you're properly prepared. I did a lesson on number operations and relationships with counting and mental maths as part of it. And then I did a group lesson which was all about estimation, place value and word problems. I try to teach visually and auditory and kind of aesthetically where the children listen, look and feel. I feel it's very important that they touch objects, that they feel objects, that they use their bodies. So I cannot do without that. I cannot do without my flowered cards, which you use, or I think they call it place value cards. I've heard them call it. We know it as flowered cards, which helps with the building of numbers. I cannot do without counters or matches, anything that the little girls can count, and a number chart. And obviously extras are your abacuses and your cards.
Thank you, Cindy. To download Cindy's lessons plan from this DVD, refer to the menu. Rajani Mudli is a grade 3 teacher at Orient Heights. Rajani's learners come from different family structures and different socio-economic backgrounds. But Rajani is very motivated, enjoys the challenges her learners present, and what makes this special teacher tick is the difference she is making in the lives of these children.
My name is Ragini Mudli. I'm a teacher at Orient Heights Primary School. I'm a grade 3 teacher. There are a number of children that we would regard as slow learners, and some children would have real learning problems. And what I do in my class, when you come to group work, and during the course of every day, we have 2 groups coming to us to do carpet work or to have their individual attention. And what I found particularly helpful is that I alternate the groups. Like on a Monday, I would probably get the A group children or the group 1 children to come along, as well as the lower group, the group 3. Then on a Tuesday, we'll have the group 2 coming along, but the group 3 comes again. So they will see me every day, like 5 days a week. And when we work on the carpet, I am able to offer them direct supervision and direct help. And with them, they need concrete aids, they need the resources, they need support, and for me to provide them with crutches and to scaffold their learning and support their learning. And it's also the manner in which we present ourselves, or I present myself as a teacher, so that not to intimidate them and not to get them alarmed or scared, so that if they are in a supportive, conducive environment of teaching and learning, I found that they actually respond in a very, very positive manner. Actually, this year I have a child that has been on the street for 2 years. And I welcomed him into the classroom. I know that he's a slow learner because he was at our school previously. But I think right now he cannot write in full sentences. He cannot cope with the written part of the work. But he is willing to respond and to the oral work, to the mental work. And I think right now my duty as a teacher is to love him and keep him off the street and the drugs. And I spoke to him this morning and asked him how did he enjoy his experience, and he said he was so happy that he was a part of all the activities, that we didn't leave any child out, and he was fully engrossed.
Now let's join Rajani and her learners. Rajani's style of teaching is interactive. She begins her whole class activity with a counting game. The children come to the front of the classroom in their groups. They make a train and count in 2s to 100.
2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20.
The learners then return to their desks while counting in 10s. The rhythmic counting game and the counting aloud as learners return to their desks keeps them focused and helps to maintain discipline. At their desks, learners play the flag game. This game reinforces counting in 5s. The learners take out their flags that Rajani has prepared in advance for the lesson. Each flag has a multiple of 5 printed on it, and the numbers are in the 0 to 100 range. First, Rajani gets the learners to identify and read out their numbers.
I want you to come out and form your number 5 growing pattern.
170.
And then she asks the children with flags from 5 to 50 to stand in a row in front of the class and form a number pattern. They sequence themselves by the number printed on their flag. Rajani cleverly integrates mental maths with these counting games. Listen to the questions she asks.
Right, look at Mbalenshle's number. What number, don't shout, what number is Mbalenshle holding up? Yes, Nolatando? 130. Now why is your hand up? Who can tell ma'am how many 10s in 130? Yes, Londeka? 13. Good girl. Right, let's look at Sishle. What number is Sishle holding, Ismail?
60.
What? Look carefully again. What number is that? 160. And who can tell ma'am how many 10s in 160? Yes, Ruth? Good girl.
The learners are being challenged to think about the numbers they are working with. Rajani then revises place value by asking learners to tell her how many 10s there are in different numbers.
The first one, group 1 will do. Where's group 1? Right, group 1. Second one, group 2 will do. Third one, group 3, group 4, group 5, group 6.
Rajani encourages cooperative learning through group work. The learners work standing at their tables and are given 2-digit numbers to break up as a way to explore expanded notation. This activity strengthens learners' physical and social knowledge because they are working with each other and using flashcards. The other spin-off of this activity is that it's very interactive without a huge amount of preparation. Ragini simply makes sure that the learners are working in a comfortable number range. The learners love this activity because it is a race against the clock, with groups sitting in their chairs as soon as they have solved the problem. Next, Ragini prepares for small group focused work. She calls the group to the board one at a time to explain the independent activities to them. Remember, she needs to make sure that they understand what to do so that she can conduct her small group focus without undue interruptions. Ragini's group activity will focus on calendar work, which falls under the content area measurement.
This is the last day of the week. I'd like to see all the hands going against Alia. Saturday.
They revise the days of the week and then move on to the months of the year. A boy in the class is celebrating his leap year birthday, and this question leads to higher level thinking, where learners have to figure out where the extra day in the leap year comes from.
We had a very special birthday this year. Whose birthday was on that special day? Olwetu. When was Olwetu's birthday?
29 February 2012.
Now then, where did this extra day come? All the four, if we have 28 days. How did we get 29 days this year? We had an extra day to have so much of fun. So do you know how we get the extra day? Because in 1 year we have 365 and a quarter day. The next year 365 and another quarter. And 4 quarters give us what? One whole day.
Rajani has prepared an enlarged calendar at home. It is enlarged so that all the learners on the floor can see it easily. She uses this to teach basic calendar work as well as the conventions of the calendar. She also uses the opportunity to integrate life skills by discussing Freedom Day with the group.
Something special happened on this day here in 1994. You remember last year when we did our theme on our country?
Yes.
What happened in 1994? Who can tell, ma'am?
Freedom Day.
Oh, good girl. It is Freedom Day.
The calendar work is consolidated with a worksheet. Learners will complete it at their desks as an independent activity. While they are working on it at their desks, Rajani calls out another group to the floor. Of course, Rajani takes the learners through the workbook to make sure that they won't have to disturb her while she works with the next group. The learners on the floor are ready for their independent work, but before returning to their desks, Rajani and the learners do some problem solving based on the theme that they have just explored.
All right, who wants to read it by themselves? Read in Balenchli.
Taylor's birthday is in 3 weeks' time, and Lisa's birthday is a week before. When is Lisa's birthday?
Okay, so the full stop here. See, it says Andeswa's birthday is a week before. When is Andeswa's birthday? Now, where do we need to look to find the answer?
Calendar.
We need to look. Now, you take your calendar that ma'am gave you here. Did you find the 7th? I'm only going to ask you one question and I'm not saying anything. Did you find the 7th of April?
Yes.
All right, good. I know you worked out the answer in your... Can you show us how you got the answer? You frightened? Please get. Supakazi, you show us how we got the answer.
Time is short.
He's short. Okay, Sipukazi will tell us how he got the answer. Go stand there, Sipukazi. Are you all looking?
I come from 700
1,
to 3.
right.
To 1 week before. Good girl.
The next group come to the floor where Rajani continues to teach from the content area measurement, but this time with a new topic. The topic she is teaching is time, and again, she reinforces this by getting them to complete the relevant page in the Rainbow Workbook. The success of this lesson is the result of careful planning before any teaching happens. The learners at their desks are working on their independent tasks without any problems. Let's hear what Rajani has to say about planning.
To me, planning and organization is the key that will ensure success in any classroom. When I went to the counting activities, I basically focused on at what level the class was functioning at, and from there built on previous knowledge and this linked new knowledge. And then when I went to the mental mathematics part of the lesson, I focused on where we were at that level so that the children will not be faced with something completely new and they were able to build on the knowledge that they have already gained previously.
Is it as clear to you as it is to me how planning is key to pulling off an integrated mathematics lesson? To download Rajani's lesson plan from this DVD, please refer to your menu. Join me, Monique Lanois, and her Grade 1 class in the next section. Monique, a Grade 1 teacher at The Ridge, has a special empathy with learners who experience barriers to learning. As a child with a disability, Monique struggled at school. Teachers didn't understand her disability, nor did they try to make efforts to cater for her visual impairment. Simply seating Monique in the front of the class where she could have seen the chalkboard would have made a huge difference. It was these experiences that convinced Monique she should become a teacher. Let's hear her story.
I have a syndrome, Marfan syndrome, which is a connective tissue disorder. It affects my muscles and all connective tissue in my body, the muscle, heart muscle, obviously the aorta, blood vessels, and mainly my eyesight. The retina is connective tissue, so my retina is affected and my lenses are dislocated. So I'm very short-sighted. So that for me growing up was quite a barrier. I started grade 1 in a mainstream school. My parents chose to put me in a school that had smaller classes, so I started off fine in grade 1. I got to grade 3 and my disability then became a huge barrier for me because the writing in the books got smaller, the quantity of work was more. The teacher used the blackboard a lot more, which I can't see the blackboard unless I'm standing right near it. So in grade 4, I was moved to a special school, New Horizon School for the Visually Impaired, and I attended New Horizon for grade 4, 5, 6 and 7. And after grade 7, my parents felt that although I was doing well there and it was a wonderful environment to be in, it was very protected and very sheltered, and they felt that I needed to be reintroduced, if you like, into the mainstream world and learn how to cope and how to survive in a normal classroom. So I went back into mainstream for high school, which was a huge challenge in the beginning. But I was told that it was the wrong thing to do. My parents were told that they shouldn't move me into mainstream because there is a school and that's where I belong, but they were adamant that I would cope, and I also wanted the opportunity. I wanted to be given the chance to succeed, and I was determined to prove that I would cope, and I did. I matriculated and went on to university, and I studied for 4 years teaching, and now I'm teaching. despite being told that I would never be able to matriculate in a mainstream classroom.
The focus of the lesson is number, operations, and relationships. Like all good whole class activities, Monique begins with counting. The learners are sitting on the floor, and each one has a number line strip. The number line is going to be used in different ways. It is first used for number recognition. Monique says a number, and the learners have to find it on the number line, and then explain its position on the number line. The use of positional language, like before and after, to describe the position of the number is really important. Still using the number lines, Monique asks learners to count forwards and backwards. She also gets them to count on from a given number using the number line.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
Next, the learners count on in a circle, but without the support of the number line. Each child gets a turn to count, but must stop when they hear the shaker. The next child must pick up counting from where the last child stopped. Monique likes to include variety in her whole class activity, and she now works on the concept of more and less. She begins by asking the learners what more means. Monique has sets of picture cards. Each consists of one card with many objects and another with fewer of the same objects. She chooses a learner to place the two cards under the correct columns marked more and less on the whiteboard. Here, Luke reads the words more and less and then puts the picture cards under the right column.
Clown holding balloons. Let's see if Luke knows where to stick them. Okay, give him a little bit of space. Okay, what does this word say?
More.
What does this word say?
Less.
Right, so where are you going to stick the clowns? Well done. Good, okay, go and sit down and tell us why you put them there. Why did you put this one here, Lukey?
Because it has more balloons than the other one.
Clever boy, this clown has more balloons than this clown. And this clown has? Less balloons than that clown. Okay, let's see if I've got any more smart children.
Did you notice how Monique gets Luke to explain why he has put the pictures under a particular column? We cannot stress the importance of allowing learners to verbalize their reasoning. It is what builds social knowledge of mathematics. Monique then gets the class to experience the concept of more and less using their fingers.
3 fingers. Okay? Can you put one more finger? And how many do you make? 4. Okay, show me 4 fingers. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Can you show me one less? What does it make? 3.
Again, this kinesthetic experience, doing and talking, is key to Monique's lesson. Before learners can begin working on paper, they need this physical, concrete experience. Monique wraps up the whole class activity with a fun counting activity to change the pace of the lesson. Let's have a look.
There we go. I'm going to give King 4 beanbags.
Now what can I hold the bucket?
You're going to hold the buckets. Okay, you go and sit and hold the buckets. King, stand here, back a little bit. Right, King's going to throw them in. Okay, leave it. It's fine. That's 1 out, 1 in, another 1 in, another 1 in. How many went in the buckets?
3.
How many went out the buckets?
1.
Who can tell me a sum? Abo.
1.
Clever girl. 1 out the bucket, 3 in the bucket, and what does it make altogether? 4. Okay.
With this activity, Monique managed to get the learners to consolidate, in other words reinforce, the concept of more and less, while also revising bonds of single-digit numbers. Monique moves her learners to a different area of the classroom to give them instructions for the independent activities. This is an excellent management strategy because it prevents boredom and gets the learners to refocus. We now join Monique as she explains the small group focus to her learners. Monique has grouped her learners according to their mathematical ability. She has named her groups after shapes. She spends about 10 minutes explaining to the learners what they need to do to complete the independent activities. This will ensure that the learners don't disrupt her as she works with her small groups. As Monique explains the worksheets, she also quickly revises the concepts. Here she very quickly revises the concept of addition.
What does Mr. Plus do? Puts things together. Show me with your arms. What does Mr. Plus do? Puts things together.
Do you see how Monique doesn't need to reteach concepts? She simply prompts learners and the learners explain what needs to be done. This again is an example of cooperative learning and peer teaching and learning. Monique not only asks the learners what they must do, she asks them how they will do it.
There are lots and lots of sums on your worksheet, so you're going to be nice and busy. At the bottom of your worksheet, there's some counting. But Miss Langlois left out some of the numbers in the counting. And you have to fill in the missing numbers. What's missing here? What comes after 0? 1. So what should I write on this line? 1. What should I write on this line? 2. Do I need to write a 3? No, they've got a 3 already, so what do I write after the 3? 4. Okay.
She uses an enlarged worksheet to explain the activity. This ensures that everyone can read it. Monique has planned an additional activity for learners who complete their work before she is finished with the small group focus. This is a fun activity where the learners will use Play-Doh to practice the concept of more and less. This will ensure that learners do not become disruptive when they have finished their work, but it also motivates learners to focus and complete their independent activities because they want to play with the Play-Doh. Monique is finally ready to work with a group on the floor. If you are in any doubt about the amount of time she has spent preparing the learners for their independent tasks, you will now see the payoff. The content area focus for the small group work is number, operations and relationships, but within the planned activity she will also cover space and shape and data handling. Monique gives each learner a color-shaped space board with templates of 2D shapes and a bag of Unifix blocks. Monique names a shape and the learners use their Unifix blocks to cover the shapes as they count them. The colors of the blocks must match the color of shapes on the boards. Once they have counted them, they take the counters off the board and build a vertical tower above it. Let's take a look.
Can you estimate? Estimate means we're not going to what? Count. So put your hands on your lap. We're not going to use our fingers. Can you estimate how many stars there are on your page? Who can do it quick? Sarah.
There's 5.
You think there are 5? What do you think?
5.
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 Do you all think 5?
Yes.
Oh, Stevie, you're cheating. You're counting. Okay, now we're going to check if they're 5. I'm going to give you a bag. I want you to take out the yellow counters and count the stars by putting counters on each star. Take your yellow counters and build them into a tower for me and put them on the carpet above your board. What can you tell me about the red so far? What can you tell me about the red, Ryan? It's got more, and it's actually got the what? The most so far. It's the tallest one.
So what do you think the focus of this activity was? I hope you were counting. This one activity targets the following concepts: shape, color, geometric patterns, one-to-one correspondence, number concept, and data handling. Wow, this one activity covered a variety of topics, but its success was in its planning. Let's hear how Monique planned this.
Looking back, I think I have a lot of empathy for the children, and I know how important it is to cater for each child's different individual needs, and it's really not that difficult. It just takes a little bit of extra thought, a little bit of extra planning and preparation and compassion.
She ends the small group focus with story sums while the rest of the class work on their independent activities.
Okay, here's your first story. We're going to do word problems. Miss Langmore's going to tell you a story. You're going to draw me pictures or do sums or do whatever you need to do, and then you can tell me the answer. All right, and remember the answer is a secret. Don't shout out the answer. It's a secret. Josie, are you ready? Right. Here's your story. Miss Langmore went outside the classroom, and outside the classroom she found 6 shoes lying on the corridor. She found 6 shoes. I want you to tell me how many children took their shoes off. It's a secret. Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
Right, put your boards on the floor. Okay, on the floor. Now I'm going to go around a circle and see what you said. Okay, what did you say? How many children took their shoes off?
3.
3. And what does this picture mean? What does it tell me, this picture? What are these circles? Are those the shoes?
Yes.
Okay, and what are the lines?
Those are to see how much they are.
But why have you put 2, 2, 2?
Because that makes sense.
It makes 6, you're quite right. So what does the 3 tell me? The 3 is how many?
6.
How many children took off their shoes? So do these 2 shoes belong to one child?
Yes.
And these 2 belong to another child?
Yes.
And these 2 belong to another child? So it makes 1, 2, 3 children?
Yes.
Wow.
Because Monique always works with 2 small groups, she must prepare these learners for their independent task, which will come from the Rainbow workbooks. They work through the instructions and examples, and they return to their desks to complete the work. Monique is now ready to bring another group to the carpet. This group is made up of her slow learners. English is not their first language, and so they struggle with the language of mathematics. Getting to know mathematical language is the basis of conceptual knowledge. Even though the learners are not of the same ability and do not learn at the same pace, the concepts outlined in the CAPS document must be covered with all the learners in the class. This means all learners need to cover the same content, and this is possible if the small group focus approach is used. Small group focus teaching allows for differentiation, which means that you can adapt the content, concepts, and skills according to the different ability levels of the learners. Monique now teaches the same content to her slowest and bottom group, but uses different manipulatives and limits the number range so that learners can cope with the work. Monique has created a lovely workboard for each learner from animal gift paper. Each board is cut into a different shape, which means that every learner's board is unique, and that means they have to solve problems on their own. She revises the concept of estimation with the learners before asking them to estimate particular animals on the board. Let's see how they explore the birds on the board.
Can you estimate? Now you've all got different boards, okay? So don't worry about your neighbor. I want you to estimate with your hands in your lap. Hands in your lap. How many elephants are on your board?
2.
Okay, I'm going to come around the circle and ask you. How many? How many?
3.
How many?
2.
How many?
2.
How many?
1.
How many?
3.
How many? You say? 2. How many?
2.
How many?
2.
Right. Take out your counters and count your elephants for me. Who was right when they estimated? Who had the right number? Okay? Did you have the right number? Did anybody estimate the wrong number? No. Were you also smart? You estimate? How many elephants did you say you have, Tando?
I think 3 first and I said 2.
Okay, you said 3, and when you counted, how many did you see that you had?
As you saw, the learners use Unifix blocks to cover the animals they are counting. This is a classic one-to-one correspondence activity. Next, they made towers with their Unifix, the beginning of data handling. Monique uses a range of mathematical vocabulary, such as odd, even, most, least, more, and less. The learners take longer to come to their conclusions because of the language challenges, and therefore Monique does a lot of repetition, and teacher-directed guidance also takes place. note how Monique gets onto the carpet to help the learners. Finally, the learners solve word problems with Monique. The problems are less difficult, but the concepts the learners are practicing are the same.
And Kobani has 2 toy cars at home. Alright? How many does he have? 2. For his birthday, when it was his birthday, he got 3 more cars. Now, how many cars does he have all together? Don't look at your neighbor. Lisa, what's happening? Stephen? Shh. How many does he have all together? Aya, what did you do, my lovey? What are these 2 cars? What are these sticks? Are those the cars? Are these the 2 cars? And then those are the 3 more. And what did it make? 5. So what did you do? You put them Put them together. What did you do, Pila? Choose something from the table. What did you do, Pila? You put 2 cars and then? You put 3 cars and then? It equals 5. Did you count all of them together? Okay, what did you do?
A sum.
You did a sum? What sum did you do?
2 plus 3 equals 5.
Good, let's see your sum. You did the same as Aya. Sandra did a sum. What did you do, Linda? The area that I focused on today was numbers, operations, and relations. We've been talking a lot, doing a lot about more and less, the concept more and less, one-to-one correspondence, and a little bit of data handling. So that was the focus of today's lesson at varying levels.
We are sure you'll agree that Monique is an inspiration. You can find Monique's lesson plan preparation on the menu of this DVD. Loretta Flynn is a grade 2 teacher at Eastwood. She has over 40 learners in her class, but on the day we visited her, many learners had left the school due to national strike action. But in the midst of this, Loretta's door remained open and teaching continued. Let's take a look at her lesson. Loretta enjoys using the rainbow workbooks because in addition to the colorful worksheets, the books are filled with ready-to-use resources. She begins her lesson with a whole class activity. Her focus is counting, and the learners are using the 100 chart at the back of the grade 2 rainbow workbook. They count in ones, touching each number as they count. The learners pay attention because Loretta is using the count and carry on method, where each learner gets a chance to count but has to begin where the previous learner stopped.
Stop, carry on. You look at the numbers while the others are counting, eh? Look at your numbers and point to your numbers. Stop. Stop. Next.
Next, Loretta points to numbers on her enlarged 100 chart, and learners find the number on their charts and name it. This is a simple but classical number recognition activity that Loretta extends by asking learners to count on from the found number, but in tens.
Number? 55. Right now, number 55. We are going to count. If I have to add 10 to 55, who can tell me how much will I have? So 35 and 10 will give me? 45. Another one. Let's try Shanton. Shanton's fingers on 45. Shanton's going to add 10 to 45. So you added, how many did you add to 45?
55.
How many did you add to 45? 10. And which number did you get to? To a number? 55.
Loretta rearranges her learners for the independent activities, which will all come from the Rainbow workbooks.
Kieran, you sit in that row there. Take your workbook with you, boy. And Shanton can go and sit there.
Loretta now gets the learners to focus on the instructions. She very carefully explains the independent activities so that they are able to work independently without her support while she works with the small groups. Loretta has 3 ability groups in her class. Let's hear what she has to say about grouping learners.
At first, we put them at random at first because you don't really know where the children are at, and also we get a lot of new children from other schools. So we first put them at random, anybody sits anywhere, and then we group them, say the 2nd or the 3rd week of school. Once you've seen what they can do, then I put them in ability groups. The slower ones, I have got children in my class that are very, very slow. And then there are the average ones, and then the faster learner.
Some very practical tips. Thank you, Loretta. Although Loretta has 3 groups in her class, she wants everyone to complete the activities in the Rainbow workbook. What's important to know is that not all of the groups will complete the activities in today's lesson, but during the course of the week, every group will have a chance to complete them. Because the one activity in the Rainbow workbook deals with shape, Loretta revises the properties of each shape in preparation for the independent work. The next activity the learners will complete also falls under the content area measurement, and the topic is money. The learners must cut out the coins found in the workbook and use them to complete the activity. Loretta works through each example in this activity before beginning her small group focus time. Loretta knows that some learners will complete the activities before she has finished with the group focus time, so she has planned that as part of the independent activities, these learners do some word sums in the workbooks. Together, Loretta and her learners read through each problem.
You see the word problems here, the word sums at the bottom? So you're going to read them, and this row is going to do this work on this page. Susie has, come, let's all read together.
Susie has 50 cents.
Okay?
Susie has 50 cents.
Loretta is now confident that she can begin her group work. The focus for the small group work is on place value of 2-digit numbers using flard cards. The learners unpack their flard cards and, as expected, arrange them in order on the carpet. Loretta calls out one number at a time and learners construct it from the cards. Loretta also asks the learners what happens if the value of each digit in the 2-digit number is swapped around. In other words, 34 becomes 43. Loretta asks which of the numbers is more and which is less.
30 and 4, put them together, makes 30 and 4 makes
34.
Makes 34. Now, we said 34. Let's turn it around and make it 43. Now, what must I do with the 40? I said, what was the number? 43. What was the number? 43.
While Loretta and the learners are working, parents arrive and remove their children from the class. Loretta takes this in her stride, allows the learners to leave, and continues to teach without too much disruption. The group on the floor pack away their flard cards, and Loretta gives the learners blank sheets of paper to work on. The focus of the small group activity now shifts to problem solving. The problem solving examples deal with sharing, and for this particular group, Loretta has decided to present sharing without remainders. However, should the learners cope well with the concept, she will begin to include examples that have remainders.
Jane picked 15 apples. She shared them equally among her 3 friends. How many apples did she give each friend? So, if there are 3 friends and there are 15 apples, how many apples did you give each one? You gave each one 5. How many apples did you give each one? Are you sure? How many did you give each one? How many did you give each one? You gave each one 5. How many did you give each one? You gave each one 5.
The beauty of the small group focus time is that the teacher can see exactly how the learners are performing and adapt her lesson on the spot to meet the learner's needs. It may mean she wants to challenge learners, or she sees that learners need more reinforcement of concepts. This is the hallmark of a good teacher, being able to constantly adapt her lesson to suit the learner's needs. As you can see, the learners use diagrams and symbolic representations to solve the problems. As Loretta and the learners work through the problems, the way in which they present the problem changes. To start with, the learners drew pictures, but as they gain confidence, they begin to use symbolic representations. Either method is okay, of course, but it's interesting to see that as the learners grow in confidence, they are able to move from a more concrete representation to a more symbolic one. As you can see, Loretta returned to the rainbow workbooks time and time again during the lesson. There was a suitable worksheet for every activity that she either introduced or reinforced. In situations where technologies like photocopying machines and printers are limited, the workbooks are a perfect resource. We take our hats off to Loretta. The ability to turn a negative situation into a positive experience is 90% professionalism and 10% experience. Let's hear what Loretta has to say about the challenges she deals with on a daily basis.
Once in a while, we do have disruptions that are out of our control. I mean, like today now, it's a strike. And then we have so many teachers going off. With the result, a notice has to go out to the parents to say that so many teachers will be off school tomorrow, and this is the time the school will be closing. So, yeah, it does interfere with our teaching, but at the same time, we try and catch up. Later on. Yeah, make the children do the backlog of work that they haven't done for that day, specific day or whatever. Yeah.
Thank you, Loretta. You can download Loretta's lesson plan on the menu screen of this DVD. Join me in the next session for another peek into a different South African classroom. MacArthur is a pristine school that serves a squatter camp. Here you'll find a group of teachers dedicated to bringing about positive change in the lives of their learners. Pile Chelly is the grade 3 teacher, and her enthusiasm for teaching and mathematics is obvious. Pile begins her whole class activity with a counting number action rhyme. Number rhymes are good to focus learners' attention, and they model the correct pronunciation and sequencing. Pili also uses an enlarged 100 chart and number word flashcards for the first activity. The learners read the number chart from 1 to 20, and they also read the number words. This is a number, symbol, and word recognition activity. Fractions, which lead to decimals later on, can be quite a difficult topic for learners to grasp. Pili uses a very practical example to reinforce the concept of fractions. She uses a little boy to demonstrate the concept of half. She draws an imaginary line down the center of his body to show learners what half means. Once she is certain that the learners have grasped the concept, she asks them to transfer this knowledge to number. She asks, what is half of 4, then 8, then 16? Each time the number investigated doubles. Take a look.
Aslam lo ke ngimsele ngishaya imbazo ngimsike phakathi uAslam bese ngihamba nocezu lwakho lodwa uAslam asale nocezu lodwa mina ngihambe namehlo noma ngihambe nezindebe ezingakho izika Aslam. Okay, ngicela ukubuza ukuthi mawucabanga ubani uwafu ka4? Ubani uwafu ka4? Yeah. Uthi u2. Ubani uwafu ka8? Mawucabanga. Yeah. U4 uwafu ka8. Ubani uwafu ka16 mangabe ucabanga? Anele. U8 uwafu ka16 u8. Okay, awuhlale phansi ke mntana.
Did you notice all the learning that came out of this one activity? Fractions, where we dealt with halves, number pattern, where we doubled, and symmetry. Pili ends her whole class activity with the calendar board. She also makes sure that the independent tasks are understood and that the learners have manipulatives to use for calculations when they do the independent activities.
Uyalibona? Uyalibona? Yes. Sithini isihloko sami lapho phezulu awufundele ukuwafu ungakhohlwa ukubhala igama lakho mntanami lapho eceleni ubhale nosuku lwanamhlanje mangabe usowenza lo.
The learners on the floor are working with sets of flard cards. They set these out in order, the hundreds, the tens and the units, or as they are sometimes called, singles. Pili asks her learners to build 2-digit numbers. They make these with the tens and singles. Pili also gets them to count out the number they have made on the abacus. The activity is extended further and the learners now find the number on the 100 chart. Pili keeps her learners interested and involved with her high-energy interactive style. Learners then count backwards and forwards. Watch how Pili uses her body to show learners the difference between forwards and backwards.
Masuku siyehla asiphambili siyehla kasihlan.
Backwards and forwards is a concept that learners often struggle with. Pili then asks learners to build numbers that invert. They make 16 and 61, and a lot of verbalization occurs. She gets them to compare the number of tens and the number of units or singles in each number. She then gets the learners to add to both numbers with a new number of her choosing, for instance 10. Then they compare the two numbers again, looking at how the numbers have changed and then at how many tens and singles there are in each new number. Once the learners have grasped the concept of using flard cards to build 2-digit numbers, she challenges them by getting them to build 3-digit numbers. All the while, the rest of the class have been quietly working at their desks. Their task has been to finish their magic triangle worksheets using readily available resources. Here we can see paper clips and bread bag fasteners. They work collaboratively, whispering softly as they solve problems. This is what we want as teachers, because when children communicate, they are building their social knowledge of mathematics. Pili is now ready to work with a new group of learners on the carpet. Before she can do so, she must prepare the current group with an activity to reinforce the work that was taught. She and learners work through the activity in the Rainbow Workbook, which deals with bonds of 14.
Uyakwazi ukubona imindeni ye14. yoku14 yokuyishumi nane uyakwazi ukuyibona bakwenzeleke lokho kulula wena nje ukuziqhubekela nakho.
Once Pili is sure that her learners know what they do, they return to their desks to complete the activity. Pili works with a new group of learners and they begin with an estimation problem. Pili shows the learners a bag of beans and asks them to estimate the number of beans inside the bag.
Mia, uthi bawu 60. Bangapha. Bawu 94. Bangapha uyayibhala inamba yakho. Ake ningibaleleke.
They then tip out the beans and count them to check their estimations. She invites a learner to write the number they have counted onto the blackboard. Now begins the analysis of their estimations. The learners discuss the difference between their estimates and the actual number of beans counted. Pili asks them who estimated more and who estimated less. She also makes sure to ask them by how much their estimate differed.
120.
The group now moves on to accounting and operations activity. The learners are adding 10 to numbers. Have a look at the interaction between teacher and learners. Can you see that Pili respects her learners? She listens carefully and responds kindly and enthusiastically. While this may not seem extraordinary, we must remind ourselves of the environmental conditions in which these children come from. Her positive attitude is reaffirming for these learners.
7 siyehla sehla kahlanu.
The group focus session ends with the word problems that deal with ratio. Pili uses examples like this. Big brother eats 3 slices of bread for every one the little brother eats. If big brother eats so many, how many does little brother eat? The learners use manipulatives to solve the problem and share their answers with each other and the teacher. For a full interview with Pili in isiZulu, go to the menu board and click on the link. Pili teaches in difficult conditions. While the school building and facilities are outstanding, the surroundings speak of poverty and hardship. Learners from these conditions coming into the school environment need an education, but they also need affirmation of their self-worth, and Pili provides this in abundance. We have seen 5 outstanding teachers, women who are making an impact in the lives of their learners, women who will no doubt have an impact on the bright futures that await them. Join us in the next section where we'll be looking at children with barriers to learning mathematics and how we can accommodate them in the classroom. In DVD 3, Literacy Part 2, we looked at the underlying causes that result in barriers to learning. Here's a quick overview, but we suggest that for more in-depth understanding into these causes, you watch this section again. In this DVD, we will meet 2 teachers who work with learners who are experiencing barriers to learning. Mrs. Williams is a grade 1 teacher and Mrs. Bassan is a grade 3 teacher. They are both committed to helping their learners overcome their problems. To help learners who are experiencing barriers to learning, it is vital that teachers understand the reasons these learners aren't achieving to their full potential. The first indication is exactly this, the sense you as a teacher have that a learner is not achieving to his or her full potential. The learner doesn't perform at the level of other learners, yet the child appears to be bright and capable. The learner's behavior may provide you with some clues as to the underlying problem. For instance, does the child screw up his face when reading from the chalkboard? Does he constantly rub his eyes and does he struggle to copy accurately? In these instances, the child will need a referral to an eye specialist who will test the eyes and may, if necessary, prescribe eyeglasses and eye exercises. If identified and rectified early enough, the learner should be able to cope with the work. But the longer this condition goes unattended, in other words, the child's eyes are not tested, the greater the learning deficit will become and the harder learning will get for the child. Visual problems are common, but they aren't always the cause of a learning problem. Hearing problems sometimes take longer to identify. The children are sometimes thought to be bored or disinterested or even naughty. These learners tend to rub their ears and sometimes cock their heads when spoken to. You may also think that they are ignoring you. If you suspect that the learner is hard of hearing, refer the child to an audiologist to be tested. The learner may be fitted with a hearing aid if there is a problem. Simply looking at this learner directly when talking and speaking slowly will help. Notice how Mrs. William articulates her words and looks into the learner's face.
What? Pull me back a little. What color is the star? Yellow. Right. What color is the circle? Green.
Perceptual problems are always present in the child who has a visual or auditory impairment. If you aren't a remedial specialist, you should consult with an expert who will suggest ways in which you can adapt your teaching and activities. Another sign learners with barriers displays disruptiveness, impulsiveness, anxiety, excessive fidgeting, and emotional oversensitivity, especially if their routine is upset or challenged. Luca, a grade 1 boy, bursts into uncontrollable tears when the number game comes to an end. Mrs. Williams settles him by allowing one more shortened round of the game. While we shouldn't give in to the demands of the learners, we should try to calm these learners and settle them so that learning can continue.
Oh, okay, everyone, should we make him feel better? Okay, put a 0 on. John, Luca, this is the last time, okay?
Mrs. Basson teaches grade 3 learners at Japari, a school for learners who experience barriers to learning. Let's see how she manages the behavioral and educational needs of her learners. Mrs. Basson begins her lesson with a whole class activity. Because her learners are easily distracted, she keeps her lessons fast-paced, physical, and with a lot of short activities. The learners enter the room and stand on their chairs. They greet, and this is followed by a counting action rhyme.
And we learned a little action. Are you ready?
Yes.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, put on a shoe. 1, 2, 3, climb the tree. 1, 2, 3.
Mrs. Basson then gets the learners to count out a number of objects from their pencil bags. She wants the learners to have a variety of objects to choose from, and that's why she hasn't used conventional counters like buttons or Unifix. She tells the learners to listen carefully and asks them to take out a number of different items. Let's have a look.
I'm going to read to you what you have to take out first and try to pack them nicely on your desk so that you don't get confused now. Right, take out 1 grey pencil, 1 eraser. Lovely and noisy, okay?
The purpose of this activity is twofold. In the first place, this is a good listening skills activity which targets auditory sequencing and memory. In other words, the learners have to remember what they must take out and in what order it must be placed. Then they count the objects.
1 grey pencil,
Yes.
1 sharpener,
Yes.
eraser,
Yes.
glue, scissor, whiteboard marker, red Cokie, blue crayon, ruler, highlighter. Well done.
She then asks the learners to tell her what they took out first, second, last, and so on. So this activity also reinforces the concepts of position and ordinal numbers.
What did we take out first? Hands up. Miss Cindy, what was the first item you took out?
Pencil.
The grey pencil. Well done. Second. Monique.
Sharpener.
Sharpener. Is she right? Yes, she's right.
Finally, they pack the items back into their bags, but counting backwards. Again, we see that a well-planned activity can teach a variety of concepts. They then count on the 200 number chart. Mrs. Bassan has an enlarged chart and each learner has their own one. They are all laminated, and as they count in 10, the teachers and learners use a Koki pen to make a dot on each number they count. Marking the numbers helps the learners remember, and they can see the patterns that emerge. This is a supportive strategy for the learners.
16, 18,
Stop there. Are you busy making dots?
yes,
Good. Let's carry on. 22.
24, 20.
The number that is being analyzed is 20. Because her class is small, she has learners from another class join in for this counting activity. Again, a number of concepts are reinforced with this one activity. Let's have a look.
How many toes do you have?
10,
So how many altogether?
20,
Okay, how many fingers on your right hand?
5,
How many on the other hand?
5,
How many on your left foot?
5,
Not fingers, toes, hey? And on the other foot?
5,
So altogether?
20,
And go like this. 10, 20. Again.
10, 20.
And all of you are going to count in twos. Are you ready? And count. 2.
4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, 16, 18, 20.
Right. Who wants to make the sum on the board, the number sentence quickly for me about all the twos? Tristan, come and try. So how many eyes does a person have? 2. So you write 2 plus 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 Go on. Not too big, otherwise you're going to bump into 20. How many twos does he have? 10. Only 8. Let's count. 1, 2, 3.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Oh, 1 short.
2 short.
1 short. And equal. Come this side, come this side. You start writing very funny. Make that 2 over. It's not very nice. And equals what? Woo. And what is the number? You know, Moose. You remember all the eyes together were?
10.
Huh? 10 children times 2? 10 times 2?
20.
20. Thank you. Please write a beautiful 20.
How many concepts did you count? Ordinals, counting in twos, and grouping. Did you notice that Mrs. Bassan kept the activity physical? This keeps the learners interested and focused. Mrs. Bassan then asks the learners what they know about 20. They give her a number of facts. They also look at the numbers that come before and after 20, as well as bonds of 20. Mrs. Bassan then asks what's 5 more than 20, 5 less than 20, and so on.
Remember in grade 1 you did bonds of 10? And now we're going to do bonds of 20. 5 more than 20, Kamu.
11 plus
No. Wait. Oh, I see you want to give me 11 plus 9. Very well.
Using Unifix blocks, the learners group the blocks into different ways to make 20. In other words, the learners are discovering the multiples of 20. And finally, Mrs. Bassan carefully explains what each group will be doing while she does her small group focus. She has enlarged the worksheets so that all the learners can see it. Of course, she works through examples on each of the worksheets. The whole class activity is followed as usual with a small group focus on the side of this very small classroom. As you can see, although these children have barriers to learning, the lesson structure, by that we mean the whole class and small group focus time, remains. The other important thing to note is that this school follows the CAPS document. The only difference is that these learners are supported, in some cases with assistive devices, but in all cases with an infinite amount of patience, repetition, pacing, and kinesthetic encounters that are vital to learning success. We hope that you have enjoyed sharing the teaching and learning encounters in this DVD series with us. We wish you success in your teaching and know that with CAPS, the rainbow workbooks, and sound methodologies, we can get teaching and learning right.
The classroom management strategies and teaching approaches shown in these DVDs are relevant for all school contexts, including multi-grade and special schools too.